There is a moment in life that arrives without warning. It doesn't come with thunder, nor with flashing lights. It comes in silence, a whisper, quiet, persistent, that calls not to the ears but to the soul. You might be walking down a crowded street or lying awake in the middle of the night, staring at the ceiling. And then, without knowing why, something within you shifts. A sense that something is missing but not out there within. This moment is sacred because in that silence, something ancient begins to stir, a remembering, a flicker of something you cannot name but deeply recognize, a sense of home, not in a place, but in a state of being. You're not broken. You're not lost. You're not late. You are awakening. For so long, you've walked through the world collecting roles, achievements, labels, and expectations. And yet, none of them satisfied the quiet ache within you. That ache is not a flaw. It is a signal. It is the soul's invitation to return, not to something new, but to something eternal. You were never meant to stay asleep. And now, the voice within begins to call. There is more, it whispers. There has always been more. We live in a world full of noise, yet starving for silence. In our race to do, to get, to become, we have forgotten how to simply be. And in this forgetting, we lost sight of something sacred, the presence that never left us. The divine spark, buried beneath layers of conditioning, doubt, and fear. But that presence never stopped waiting. It watches. It whispers. It longs for your return. And so begins the journey, not to some distant land, not to the mountaintop, but inward, through the layers of thought, identity, and illusion, into the stillness beneath it all. This is not a path for the mind. It is a path for the heart. The path of awakening is not about becoming something different. It is about remembering who you've always been, beneath the masks, beyond the pain, before the forgetting. You are the light you've been seeking. You are the peace you crave. You are the voice behind the silence. This is the beginning. And as we walk together through this sacred unfolding, let each word be a mirror. Let each pause be a doorway. Let each breath take you deeper. The voice that calls you now is not new. It is ancient. It is holy. And it is yours. If you are here, it means the voice has reached you. But before there is awakening, there is always forgetting. Once you remembered who you were before the world told you who to be. You walked in the light before learning to fear the dark. You existed not as a name, not as a role, but as presence. Radiant, whole, infinite. But slowly, as all souls do, you descended. Not into punishment, but into a sacred experience. The experience of being human. And with each step down into this world of form and contrast, you began to forget. You forgot the feeling of being enough. You forgot the language of stillness. You forgot that love was not something to earn, but something you already were. This forgetting was not a failure. It was a choice. Because to remember, truly remember, you had to first experience the illusion of separation. The soul's descent into the world is not unlike a seed falling into the earth, covered in darkness, pressed beneath weight, uncertain of the light it once knew. But even buried, it holds the memory of sunlight. And so do you. Your soul carries that memory of love, of unity, of light, even if your mind has learned to doubt it. The world may have taught you to look outside for truth, to compare, to compete, to chase approval, to hide your pain, to shrink your brilliance. You were never meant to become something you are not. You were meant to remember the divine essence that breathes through you, even now. This is the fall, not into sin, but into sleep. A collective amnesia that took hold the moment we began to believe we were separate from each other, from the earth, from God, from ourselves. And in that sleep, we built walls. We called them identities. We crafted masks, and we wore them so long we believed they were real. We sought safety in being accepted, even if it meant silencing our truth. We called the chase for worthiness ambition. We called our fear of being seen humility. But beneath it all, the soul never forgot. It waited patiently behind every smile that felt forced, every silence that ached, every longing that could not be named. It waited in the tension between who we are and who we pretend to be. The fall into forgetting is part of the sacred rhythm. The inhale and the exhale. The silence before the song. The sleep before the awakening. And if you feel tired, if you feel like your soul is stretching beyond what your life has allowed, if you feel like you can't keep pretending, good, because that means the remembering has begun. The cracks are not your breaking. They are your opening. They're where the light begins to rise again. You are not broken, the voice says once more. You are remembering. The journey home does not begin with answers. It begins with the courage to question. What if there's more than this? What if I'm more than this? And so, the path opens. One breath, one truth, one step at a time. And as we move forward, we will meet the part of you that has always been searching. The part that walks quietly beside the pain, asking not for escape, but for meaning. That part is calling us now. Let's walk with it. Somewhere along the way, your soul began to ask questions. Not the kind that fill textbooks or spark debates, but the kind that echo in the quiet spaces of your heart. The kind that wake you at night without sound. The kind that cannot be answered with logic, only with presence. Why am I here? Is this all there is? Who am I, really, when no one is watching? These are not questions of the mind. They are calls from the soul. Because the soul does not seek information, it seeks meaning. It longs not for noise, but for truth. Not for achievement, but for remembrance. And no matter how much you build, earn, or accomplish, that whisper will never leave until you pause and listen. We live in a world addicted to movement. Constant doing, constant seeking, constant distraction. But what if the most sacred thing you could do is stop? Stop running. Stop performing. Stop trying to be enough. And instead, be still enough to realize you already are. Your soul remembers that you came here for more than survival, more than productivity. You came here for depth, for connection, for awakening. You came to touch the mystery, to taste divinity in the ordinary, to feel love in every breath. But somewhere along the way, the noise grew louder than the truth. And yet, even now, that still small voice remains. It speaks in the spaces between your thoughts, in the ache behind your smile, in the longing you feel when the world is quiet, in that strange sense that something sacred is just beyond the surface. The soul that seeks meaning is not lost. It is being led back through the forest of illusion, back through the fog of forgetting, back to the clearing where truth was never hidden, only overlooked. And here's the mystery. The more you listen, the more the path appears. Not all at once, not with certainty, but with honesty. You don't need to know your purpose in grand terms. You only need to follow the next true thing, the next moment of honesty, the next breath that feels like home. Sometimes meaning reveals itself in a sunrise. Sometimes in letting go of something that no longer fits. Sometimes in choosing to love when it would be easier to shut down. Meaning is not a destination. It is a state of awareness, a way of seeing. And once you begin to see with the eyes of the soul, the world begins to change. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. You begin to notice beauty where others see ordinary. You begin to feel energy in words, in glances, in silence. You begin to walk slower, speak softer, listen deeper. You begin to live not from the surface, but from the center. And in doing so, the the soul breathes again. It expands. It sings. The questions still come. But now, they don't frighten you. Because you've stopped chasing answers. You've started seeking alignment. And alignment always leads home. So if your soul is searching, good. It means you're alive. It means you're awakening. It means you're exactly where you're meant to be. Now let's go deeper. Because beneath this longing for meaning lies a deeper mystery still. The great illusion that has shaped how we see ourselves and the world. It is time now to lift that veil. The world we see is not the world as it is. It is the world as we have been taught to perceive it. From the moment we open our eyes, we began receiving instructions. What is good? What is bad? What success looks like? What love should feel like? What is worth pursuing? And what should be feared? Layer by layer, the veil was woven. Not out of cruelty, but out of unconsciousness. Not to harm us, but to prepare us for the great remembering. This veil is not physical. It is made of belief. It is made of words we accepted without question, of identities we were assigned and silently agreed to wear. The world of forms, the external, is a magnificent theater, but it is not the whole story. It is the shadow cast by a much greater light. And when we forget that, we become attached to the shadows. We begin to believe that we are only what we can see, measure, control. We reduce ourselves to appearances, achievements, and approval. And in doing so, we abandon the part of us that was never of this world. But the soul cannot be fooled. It whispers beneath the noise, reminding us, you're more than this. You are more than a body. You are more than your name, your history, your pain. What you see around you, the structures, the systems, the stories, are only reflections. Mirrors created by collective thought. Mirrors that reflect what we have believed, not necessarily what is true. And the most powerful illusion of all, that you are separate from others, from the source, from the divine presence that pulses through all things. Separation is the root illusion. It is the veil that has caused most of the suffering in the world. When we believe we are separate, we compete. We compare. We fear. We control. We harm. But when the veil begins to lift, even slightly, the world softens. The need to prove dissolves. The compulsion to chase fades. The heart begins to open, not just to others, but to the truth that everything is connected. You are never apart from the divine. You are simply looking through the wrong lens. Like a dreamer who forgets they're dreaming. You've walked through life believing the dream was real. But now, you are beginning to stir. And in that stirring, the world shifts. Not because the world changes first, but because you change the way you see. Blessed are the pure in heart, said the Master, for they shall see God. Not later, not in heaven, but here, in this moment, in this world, in this breath. To purify the heart is not to remove all flaws, but to remove the lens of illusion, to let go of false perception, to choose to see what was always there. And what is there? Presence, light, love, truth, God, not as a distant ruler, but as the very substance of life. Once you begin to see through the veil, nothing is ordinary again. You feel the aliveness in trees. You hear messages in music. You recognize yourself in strangers. You taste eternity in stillness. And slowly, the dream becomes lucid. You are no longer lost in the play. You are aware, both of the form and of what breathes behind it. This is the sacred paradox. You are in the world, but not of it. You walk through the illusion, but your feet now touch the real. So keep walking, because the light that called you to wake is not finished. It is only beginning. And as we step further into awareness, we begin to sense it, that the invisible is not empty. It's fuller than anything we've ever known. You may not have noticed it at first. The changes were quiet, subtle, almost unremarkable. But one day, the air felt different. A song you'd heard 100 times suddenly brought you to tears. A stranger's smile stayed with you for hours. You stood beneath the sky, and for a moment, just a moment, you forgot your worries and felt vast. These are the signs, not thunderclaps, not lightning bolts, but soft openings in the fabric of your day. Moments when the veil thins and something unseen touches the scene. Awakening is not an explosion. It is a whisper that grows. It is a shift in perception, so gentle you almost doubt it, until it happens again. And again, the invisible begins to speak. And when it does not use language. It speaks through symbols, through patterns, through synchronicities that the rational mind cannot explain, but the heart knows. You start seeing repeated numbers. You think of someone and they call. You feel pulled to a book, a place, a word, as if it were calling your name. These are not coincidences. These are reminders. The universe is not silent. It's speaking all the time. But awakening is learning how to listen differently. It is the realization that life is not happening to you. It's happening through you, with you for you. And with that realization comes another. The world is alive. Not just the people, but the spaces between them. The light in the room. The energy in your own breath. You begin to sense that everything is connected by something deeper, something unseen, yet unmistakably real. Some call it source. Some call it spirit. Some call it presence. Others call it love. Names don't matter here, because what you're feeling cannot be contained in syllables. It is the presence that watches without judgment, that supports you without asking anything in return, that meets you exactly where you are and gently says, "You are enough. Come home." And here's the beauty. When you begin to see with this awareness, the world responds. The more open you are, the more the signs appear. The more still you become, the louder the whisper gets. But not everyone will understand. Some will say you've changed. Some will question your path. Some may walk away. Let them. You are not here to convince. You are here to remember. And your remembering gives others permission to do the same. You don't have to be a guru. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be honest. Honest about what you feel. Honest about what no longer fits. Honest about the longing that won't let go. Because that longing, that ache, is sacred. It is the echo of the divine calling you back to yourself. So pay attention to the breeze that moves your skin, to the words that arrive in dreams, to the way your heart softens when you stop trying so hard. These are not accidents. They are awakenings. The soul does not shout. It unfolds. And if you let it, it will take you places the mind could never lead. You are not losing yourself. You are finding what was always there. You are seeing with the eyes of spirit now. And the world will never look the same again. Keep walking, dear one, because as the invisible continues to reveal itself, there will come a moment when you meet something you've been avoiding. Not because you were weak, but because you weren't yet ready. That moment is coming, and it holds the key to everything. There comes a time in the journey when the light feels far away. The whispers fade, the beauty blurs. The world that once shimmered with spiritual meaning now feels heavy, colorless, cold. This is not the end. It is a passage. And though it may feel like you're breaking, you are, in truth, being reborn. This is the dark night of the soul, a sacred silence, a descent not into punishment, but into purification. Many fear this part of the path, because here, your usual comforts no longer soothe. Your spiritual insights feel like empty words, and the God you once felt so near seems suddenly absent. But the absence is not abandonment. It is invitation. An invitation to go deeper than belief, to go beyond language, to go beneath everything you thought you knew and discover what cannot be shaken. The dark night is not darkness for its own sake. It is the cleansing fire. It strips you of your attachments. It asks you to surrender your illusions, even the beautiful ones. It shows you the truth of impermanence, of death, of letting go. It teaches you that awakening is not always gentle. Sometimes it comes as grief, as rage, as the ache of losing what once defined you. You may feel alone, but you are not. You're never alone here, because every soul that has walked this path before you has passed through this very night. The mystics, the sages, the prophets, the saints, all of them, without exception, met this darkness. They wept, they questioned, they screamed into the silence, and then they listened, because beneath the suffering, beneath the raw ache, beneath the silence, something ancient begins to rise, a deeper presence, forged not in comfort, but in surrender. This is where faith is no longer a concept. It becomes a state of being, not faith in a distant heaven, but faith that even in this, especially in this, something holy is at work. The dark night is where the ego dissolves, not because it is wrong, but because it cannot hold the weight of what is being born. And so, piece by piece, you are unmade. You shed the false identities. You feel every layer peel away until all that's left is your breath, your pain, and your soul staring into the unknown. Where is God? You may whisper, and the silence replies. Right here in the breaking, you're not being destroyed. You are being emptied so that the light can finally fill you without distortion. But here's the secret the world doesn't tell you. Pain can be a doorway. Not all wounds are punishments. Some are passages. And in the silence that once felt like abandonment, you may begin to feel the quiet pulse of presence. Not loud, not showy, but unshakable. That is your foundation. That is your truth. That is the soul's voice, not whispering now, but anchoring you in love that no storm can remove. So don't run from the darkness. Sit with it. Breathe with it. Let it do what it came to do. Strip away the illusion and reveal the essence. This night is not forever, but who you become after it, that is eternal. And when a morning comes, not all at once, but slowly, gently, you will rise not as you were, but as something new, rooted, humbled, real, and ready to meet the world not from the wound, but from the light that grew inside it. There is a moment after the storm when the sky doesn't clear all at once, but something shifts. The air softens. The silence feels different. You're still tender, but you begin to see, not with the eyes of fear, not with the mind that demands answers, but with something deeper. The eye of the soul is an eye that doesn't judge. It doesn't divide the world into right and wrong, light and dark, holy and broken. It sees the whole picture, and in that seeing, it heals. For so long, we believed we had to fight the darkness, that to be spiritual, we had to rise above, stay positive, be light. But light without shadow is illusion. It is inauthentic. It is fragile. True light includes the dark. It knows that pain is not the opposite of growth. It is a portal to it. When you begin to see with the eye of the soul, you realize there is light even in the places you once ran from. There is wisdom in your wounds. There is clarity in your confusion. There is love even in your anger. The awakened eye doesn't flinch. It looks directly at the shadow, not to judge it, but to understand it. You begin to ask, what is this pain trying to teach me? What have I been avoiding that needs to be seen? What part of me have I been exiling that simply wants to be loved? You stop labeling yourself as broken. You stop apologizing for being human. And in doing so, you stop shrinking your spirit to fit the world's definition of good. You step into something more honest, more whole, more divine, because God does not only exist in cathedrals and clouds. The divine also lives in your doubt, in your heartbreak, in your longing, in your slow, messy, imperfect becoming. And when you see with this new eye, you begin to meet others differently too. You stop needing to fix them. You stop needing to be better than them. You start recognizing that everyone is carrying something, even if they don't show it. And that recognition, it softens you. Suddenly, forgiveness makes more sense. Compassion feels more natural. Judgment loses its sharpness. Because now, the shadow isn't something to eliminate. It's something to integrate. It's not the enemy. It's the unlit corner of your being that has been waiting for your embrace. And the moment you stop resisting it, it begins to transform. Fear becomes clarity. Anger becomes boundary. Grief becomes depth. Loneliness becomes intimacy with the self. This is the real work of awakening. Not escaping, but returning. Returning to the parts you abandoned. Returning to the wholeness that was never truly lost. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to be fully alive. And to be fully alive is to walk through the shadow with eyes that see. Not just the darkness, but the light within it. So look again, at your past, at your pain, at your patterns, not with shame, but with sacred curiosity. What you once saw as flaws may have been the very path leading you home. What you once feared may hold the light you came here to awaken. Let your vision shift. Let your seeing be soft. Let your inner eye open. Because from here on, you will never look at yourself or the world the same way again. It doesn't speak in thunder. It doesn't shout for attention. It doesn't demand loyalty. The voice of the inner Christ is a whisper, one that has always been there, waiting beneath the noise, beneath the roles, beneath the ache. It is not the voice of religion, not the voice of dogma or doctrine. It is the eternal voice, the one that existed before you had a name, before you had a face, before you forgot who you were. This voice speaks in silence, in knowing, in the space between thoughts, in the breath between words, in the sacred quiet beneath the chaos of the world. And when it speaks, it doesn't give commands. It offers remembrance. You are loved, it says. You are not separate. You are the light you seek. You are the seed of the divine made flesh. This voice is not outside of you. It is not in a temple or a statue or a book. It is within your being, encoded in every cell, every heartbeat, every pulse of your soul. You may have heard it before, in moments of stillness, in the pause after a deep cry, in the awe of looking at the stars, in the quiet after surrender. You may have felt it more than heard it, a warmth, a presence, a gentle certainty that you are not alone. That is the Christ within, not a figure from the past, but a consciousness, a living presence that awakens in you when you become still enough to listen. And once you begin to hear it, everything changes, because now your compass has shifted. You're no longer guided by fear or guilt or the need to prove. You begin to move from alignment. You begin to ask not, what should I do? But what honors my soul? What reflects who I truly am? What would love do now? And the more you listen, the clearer it becomes. Not louder, clearer, because the Christ voice does not compete. It simply waits for your permission to rise. It is the voice that says, you are whole, even when you feel broken. You are enough, even when the world says otherwise. You are safe to be fully who you are. You are sacred, even in your becoming. This voice will never shame you. It will never rush you. It will never abandon you. It will meet you exactly where you are. In your joy, in your sorrow, in your doubt, in your breakthrough. And it will say over and over, you are the temple. You are the miracle. You are the light made visible. When Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. He was not claiming exclusivity. He was offering a mirror. He was showing us the way back to ourselves, to our divine identity, to the part of us that was never separate, never condemned, never lost, only sleeping. The Christ within is your truest self, the eternal one, the watcher behind the thoughts, the love beneath the fear, the stillness beneath the storm. And now that you've begun to hear it, you will never forget its tone, even in the noise, even in the chaos, even when the world tries to drown it out. That voice is your anchor, your guide, your truth. And as we continue, it will become clearer that everything you've been seeking out there has been speaking from within all along. In the beginning, it was not the hand that created, not the mind, not even the body. It was the word. Let there be light. And there was. Across every sacred tradition, this truth echoes. The universe began not with force, but with sound, with vibration, with intention made audible. This is not myth. This is mystery, and mystery doesn't ask to be solved. It asks to be entered. Your words are not empty. They are not background noise. They are spells, whether you know it or not. Each one casts a vibration into the fabric of reality. A seed, a frequency, a choice. What you speak, you shape. What you declare, you begin to believe. What you affirm with conviction begins to manifest through you. This is why the voice of the inner Christ is so powerful. It doesn't just comfort, it creates. And now that voice begins to merge with your own. You start to realize that you are co-creating your world in every conversation. With others, yes, but even more so with yourself. I can't. I'm tired. I'm not good enough. It always goes wrong. These are not small sentences. They're unconscious decrees. Every time you speak them, you're handing your creative power over to fear. You are shaping your reality from an illusion of lack. But what happens when you remember who you are? What happens when the voice within rises and your speech aligns with your soul? Then, new words begin to form. I am here. I am light. I am held. I am enough. I am becoming. These are not mere affirmations. They're awakenings in motion. They shift the atmosphere. They bend the energetic field. They ripple into the unseen and call something holy into form. The ancients knew this. The Hebrews guarded the name of God, not out of fear, but out of awe, because it was vibration, not vocabulary. The yogis chanted sacred syllables like Om, not to worship noise, but to enter alignment with cosmic intelligence. The mystics didn't speak to impress. They spoke to transmit. And so can you. Begin with intention. Speak less often, but speak more truthfully. Let your words carry frequency, not just sound. Because when you say something from the place of alignment, the universe listens. Not like a servant, but like a mirror, reflecting your conviction, echoing your essence. This is the law of creation. What you speak from awareness returns multiplied, not immediately, not always how you expect, but always exactly as you need. And the highest speech of all, gratitude, not as a performance, not as a strategy, but as a declaration that you recognize the sacred already present in your life. Thank you for what is. Thank you for what is becoming. Thank you for what is unseen, but on its way. Gratitude doesn't just honor what's good. It activates what is possible. So speak carefully. But more than that, speak consciously, because you are not here to echo the noise of the world. You are here to speak like the light, to call things into being that others cannot see yet, but you can feel. And when your voice and your essence become one, you're no longer just a person speaking. You are a soul remembering its power. Forgiveness is not easy. It is not quick. It is not neat. It is sacred alchemy. It is the process by which the soul releases the chains that the mind keeps reforging. the quiet choice to put down the weight that was never yours to carry forever. But let us be clear. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is not pretending something didn't hurt. It is not excusing injustice or abandoning boundaries. Forgiveness is the choice to transcend the wound, to rise beyond the story of victimhood, to reclaim your power, not from others, but from the energy that's still holding you hostage. When you don't forgive, your soul remains tethered, not to the person, but to the moment, to the pain, to the resentment, to the version of yourself that was hurt and never fully let go. This is the karmic loop, not punishment but repetition, a spiral of emotion and memory that keeps repeating itself until something breaks the cycle. And that something is forgiveness. But I was wrong, the heart says. But they don't deserve it, the mind insists. And yet, the soul replies, this is not for them. This is for you. Forgiveness is self-liberation. It is the refusal to let someone else's unconsciousness determine the quality of your consciousness. It is choosing peace over pride, freedom over fury, clarity over chaos. And no, it doesn't always happen in one moment. Sometimes forgiveness is a practice, a spiral, a peeling of layer after layer after layer, until the knot inside finally dissolves. The masters knew this when Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." He was not excusing harm. He was transcending the human drama, seeing with spiritual eyes that those who hurt others are often deeply asleep, lost in their own darkness. He chose not to perpetuate pain, but to end it with him. That is power. True forgiveness is the moment you stop letting the past define your present. When you say, "This happened, it shaped me, but it does not own me anymore," and then something miraculous begins to happen. The energy trapped in that story begins to shift. The bitterness starts to fade. The wound becomes a window, a portal to deeper compassion, deeper wisdom, deeper peace. This is spiritual alchemy, turning resentment into release, turning betrayal into clarity, turning pain into peace. Sometimes the hardest person to forgive is yourself, for what you allowed, for what you missed, for who you were when you didn't know better. But self-forgiveness is no different. It is not denial. It is a deep bow of love to the one who tried, the one who learned the hard way, the one who never stopped searching. When you forgive yourself, you break the inner war. You call back your power. You look yourself in the eye and say, even that version of me was worthy of love. And then karma begins to dissolve. Not because a debt has been paid, but because you no longer identify with the energy that created it. You've risen, you've healed, you've remembered, and now you are free to speak a new story. So ask yourself, what am I still holding? What weight can I lay down today? What version of me is ready to be forgiven, released, integrated? There is no rush, but there's an invitation, a door opening, a lighter way forward. Take it, because you're not here to carry every scar forever. You are here to become the alchemist of your own soul. And this is your turning point. Silence is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of space. In the modern world, we are surrounded by noise, external, internal, digital, emotional. We are taught to fill every moment, to scroll, to respond, to achieve, to speak. But the soul does not thrive in noise. The soul remembers itself in silence. And not just any silence, not awkward pauses or forced meditation, but that sacred stillness that welcomes you back to the space before the stories. Because before the noise, before the names, before the roles, there was just you breathing, you aware, you eternal. Silence is not a punishment. It is a return. It is where the divine lives, not in sermons or slogans, but in the quiet breath between all things. You don't have to be in a temple to feel it. You don't have to be in the mountains or on a yoga mat. Silence can happen anywhere. In your car, in the kitchen, in the stillness of your own heart. All it asks is that you stop long enough to notice. And when you do, you find that silence is not empty at all. It is alive. It pulses. It listens. It holds. Silence is where the inner Christ speaks most clearly, where your soul stops performing and starts communing. "Be still," said the ancient voice, "and know that I am God." This was not a suggestion. It was a map, because the knowing doesn't come through thinking. It comes through quiet, through surrender, through deep listening presence. And when you enter this kind of silence, not once, but as a practice, you begin to change. Not in dramatic ways at first, but subtly, deeply, permanently. Your reactions soften. Your judgments loosen. Your nervous system quiets. You begin to see life more clearly. You begin to feel the space between thoughts. You begin to understand that truth isn't always loud. Sometimes it arrives as a whisper, sometimes as a pause. And in that pause, you realize something radical. You're not your thoughts. You're not your stories. You are not even your emotions. You are the one watching them. You are the space in which they come and go. You are the silence aware of itself. This is the deepest form of connection, not to others first, but to the source within. Because when you are connected to that inner stillness, you are connected to everything. There is no need to prove, no need to impress, no need to fight for space. You have already returned home. And in that home, you meet the divine not as an idea, but as presence. Not as a God above you, but as the still, loving intelligence within you. You realize God is not found through noise, not through shouting or striving, but through deep listening. So sit, close your eyes, breathe, and listen. Listen for the silence beneath the silence. The one that holds you without condition. The one that sings without sound. The one that has been waiting all along. In that silence, there is nothing to fix, nothing to earn, nothing to fear, only a deep remembering. I have always been. I am one with all things. Stay here for a while. Let this be your sanctuary. Let this be your truth. Because in a world full of noise, silence is not a retreat. It is resistance. It is healing. It is home. For centuries, we have looked to the sky. We've waited for signs, for clouds to part, for trumpets to sound, for the return of a radiant figure walking on water, arms outstretched, salvation in hand. We've prayed, "Come, Lord, return, save us from this world." But what if the second coming is not something that descends from above, but something that rises from within? What if Christ is not waiting in the heavens, but in the quietest places of your own heart? What if salvation is not something to receive, but something to remember? The second coming is not an event. It is not a spectacle. It is not reserved for a chosen few. It is a collective awakening, a remembering that the same divine essence that flowed through the man called Jesus flows through you. He never asked to be worshipped. He asked us to follow his path, to do what he did, to see what he saw, to embody what he embodied. You will do even greater things than these, he said. He wasn't being poetic. He was telling the truth. The second coming is not about one man returning. It's about millions of souls remembering who they are, returning to the Christ consciousness that was never gone, only buried. And now, it rises. It rises in the teacher who chooses compassion over correction. It rises in the parent who breaks the cycle of shame. It rises in the artist who creates beauty from pain. It rises in the stranger who holds space for another's tears. It rises in you every time you choose love over fear. Every time you remember, I am not separate. I am not powerless. I am not unworthy. I am part of the light. I am the breath of God made visible. I am the hands and heart of something eternal. This is the second coming, and it is not waiting. It is happening, not in churches alone, but in living rooms, in hospitals, in protests, in whispered apologies, in moments of radical honesty, in silence, in art, in presence. You don't need a pulpit. You don't need a robe. You don't need a title. You need only one thing: awareness. Awareness of the Christ within. Not the man on the page, but the energy in your chest. The frequency of unconditional love. The vibration of unity. The stillness that knows. We are all one. This is not theology. This is truth lived from the inside out. The world won't announce it. There will be no breaking news. But you will feel it. You'll feel it when your anger softens, when your fear dissolves, when your heart breaks open in the presence of something you can't explain, but completely trust. And in that moment, you'll know the Christ has returned, not as a figure in the clouds, but as you fully alive, as us awakening together, as humanity remembering itself. So stop waiting. The time is not coming. The time is now. The return is not ahead. The return is here. And the only question that remains is, will you answer the call? The world is changing. You can feel in your body, in your relationships, in the space between your thoughts, in the quiet sense that something is shifting, not outside you, but through you. This is not coincidence. This is not chaos. This is birth, not the kind that happens in hospitals, the kind that happens in hearts, in consciousness, in still, sacred revolutions that begin with a whisper and end in radiance. The new earth is not a place we will one day discover. It is a frequency we are beginning to embody. It doesn't arrive through force, through governments, through institutions. It arrives one soul at a time, choosing love over fear, choosing truth over comfort, choosing presence over performance. It arrives when you pause before reacting, when you breathe instead of blame, when you soften instead of defend, when you allow your humanity to be the doorway to something higher. The new earth begins the moment you remember. I'm not here to conquer this world. I am here to heal it, with my energy, with my awareness, with my becoming. Because when you are rooted in your truth, when you speak from your soul, when you walk in alignment with the Christ consciousness within you, you don't just change yourself, you change the atmosphere around you. You become a mirror, you become a tuning fork, you become a place where others remember themselves just by being near you. This is the new earth, not perfection, presence, not utopia, awareness. A world where power is no longer control, but compassion. Where success is not status, but alignment. Where truth is not debated, but lived. This is not an ideal. It is already forming. Every moment you choose to forgive. Every time you release what no longer serves. Every time you hold your center when the world shakes. You are building it, and you're not alone. All around the planet, others are awakening, quietly, steadily, sometimes painfully, sometimes joyfully. They are remembering the same truth. That real transformation begins not out there, but in here, in the heart, in the home, in the space between inhale and exhale, in how we love ourselves when no one's watching. The old world was built on fear, scarcity, separation, control. The new earth is built on trust, on connection, on the radical remembrance that we are one. One light, one breath, one being expressed in infinite forms. You are not too small to make a difference. Your vibration is not invisible. Your presence has power. So walk this earth with gentleness. Speak with integrity. Love with your whole being. And know that each time you do, you anchor a new reality. Let the old fall. Let the illusions dissolve. Let what is false be seen for what it is, and what is real rise again and again. Because the new earth isn't waiting. It's being birthed through you. Right now, right here, one breath at a time. You've heard the words. You've walked the path. Now, let it settle into your breath. Let it move from thought to knowing. This is not a meditation. It is a remembering, a gentle return, not to something new, but to something that's been with you all along. Wherever you are, pause. Let this moment find you exactly as you are. Close your eyes or soften your gaze. Take a deep breath in. Hold. Now exhale slowly. Let the breath carry away everything you no longer need. Again, inhale. Hold. Exhale. Let your body be here. Not fixing, not analyzing, just being. Feel the weight of your body supported by the ground. You are held. You always have been. Now bring your attention to the space behind your chest. That still place. That quiet room within. This is where the soul sits, where the light lives, where the Christ whispers. You don't need to search. You don't need to perform. You only need to allow. And so, allow this next breath to be an invitation, not to try harder, but to surrender deeper. With each breath, you soften. With each breath, you return. With each breath, you remember. I'm not lost. I'm not broken. I am here, and I am light. Now imagine, just for a moment, that your heart begins to glow. A warm, soft light. It doesn't ask anything of you. It simply shines. This light is not new. It is ancient. It is your essence, and it expands with every breath. Let that light move now, gently, from your heart to your belly, to your hands, to your face, to your entire body, until you are a vessel of radiant, quiet presence. You are not trying to become the light. You are revealing the light that was always there. Let that light spill outward, to your room, to the trees, to the sky, to those you love, and even to those you struggle with. There is no division, only this field of light that connects us all. This is presence. This is home. This is the divine made real through you. Now, bring your awareness back to your breath. Feel the air enter and leave your body. No need to rush. No need to return to the world as you were. Let what was real here come with you. Let this stillness walk beside you. Let this love guide your words. Let this light carry you forward. You are not leaving this space. You are becoming it. And when the world tries to pull you back into noise, remember, silence is always waiting. The Christ within is always near, and you're always welcome to return. Take one more deep breath. Place a gentle hand over your heart if it feels right, and whisper just for you, I am here. I remember. I am light, and I am enough. Now, slowly, gently, open your eyes. Carry this with you, not as a moment, but as a way of being. If this journey moved something in you, if it helped you feel closer to your truth, your light, your soul, then don't let it end here. Share this message. Let others feel what you felt. Let this light spread, one heart at a time. And most of all, subscribe to this channel. Every day, we release new content to nourish the soul, to quiet the mind, to bring you home to yourself. Because awakening is not a destination. It's a daily practice, and you never have to walk it alone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for remembering. And thank you for becoming.